Have you ever held an old photo in your hands and wondered how that single frozen moment survived decades, tucked inside albums, boxes, or frames on a wall? Or maybe you've scrolled through thousands of pictures on your phone and realized you can't even remember taking half of them. Photography used to feel deliberate. You loaded film carefully, counted your shots, and waited days to see what you captured. Now we take photos without thinking, delete them just as quickly, and share them instantly with the world. That quiet shift from chemical film to digital sensors didn't just change cameras, it changed how we remember. Today we will trace how cameras went from film to digital, right here on History of Simple Things. Long before memory cards and megapixels, photography began as a chemical experiment. In 1839, when Louis Daguerre introduced the daguerreotype process, images were captured on silver-coated copper plates exposed to light and developed using mercury vapor. It was fragile, slow, and required long exposure times. But for the first time in human history, light could permanently record reality. Soon after, innovations like glass negatives and roll film made photography more practical. In 1888, George Eastman revolutionized access to photography with the Kodak camera and the slogan, "You press the button, we do the rest." Suddenly, everyday people, not just scientists and artists, could document their lives. For more than a century, film ruled photography. The process was beautifully physical. Light entered the lens and struck a strip of plastic coated with light-sensitive silver halide crystals. When developed in a darkroom using chemicals, those crystals transformed into a negative image. Prints were then made by projecting light through the negative onto photographic paper. Every step required patience and care. Photographers learned to measure light, adjust aperture and shutter speed, and accept that mistakes wouldn't reveal themselves until days later. The limitations shaped creativity. With only 24 or 36 exposures on a roll of 35 mm film, each shot mattered. By the mid-20th century, cameras became more portable and affordable. The 35 mm format gained popularity thanks to compact designs pioneered by companies like Leica and later embraced by giants like Canon and Nikon. Family vacations, birthdays, and historical events were preserved on film. Photojournalists captured defining moments of the 20th century using mechanical cameras that worked without batteries. The reliability of film made it a trusted companion in war zones and space missions alike. Even the Apollo astronauts carried modified film cameras to the moon. But behind the scenes, a quiet revolution was beginning, not in a darkroom but in a lab. In 1969, two engineers at Bell Labs, Willard Boyle and George E. Smith, invented the charge-coupled device, or CCD. Originally designed for memory storage, the CCD turned out to be capable of capturing light electronically. Instead of silver crystals reacting chemically, tiny pixels could convert light into electrical signals. For this breakthrough, Boyle and Smith would later receive the Nobel Prize in Physics in 2009. In 1975, a young engineer at Kodak named Stephen Sasson built the first digital camera prototype using a CCD sensor. It weighed about 3.6 kilograms, recorded black and white images at 0.01 megapixels, and stored them on a cassette tape. Each image took 23 seconds to capture. It didn't look like the future. It looked like a toaster with wires. But it worked. Ironically, Kodak, the company that made film famous, had just invented the technology that would eventually disrupt its entire business. Digital photography in its early years was slow and expensive. Through the 1980s and early 1990s, digital cameras were mostly used by scientists, the military, and specialized industries. Image quality couldn't compete with film, and storage was limited, but progress was steady. Sensors improved, becoming more sensitive and capable of capturing color. Memory cards replaced tapes and floppy disks. By the late 1990s, consumer digital cameras began appearing in electronics stores. You could finally take a photo and see it instantly on a small LCD screen. No waiting, no darkroom, no surprise mistakes days later. Digital photography quickly changed habits. With nearly zero cost per image, people took more shots and deleted mistakes instantly. Professionals benefited too. Images could be edited and sent within minutes. By the early 2000s, companies like Canon, Nikon, and Sony pushed DSLRs to rival film, while Adobe Photoshop replaced darkroom techniques with digital editing. In 2007, Apple Inc. launched the iPhone, accelerating smartphone photography. Computational features like HDR and portrait mode made cameras more software-driven than mechanical. The shift hurt film companies. Kodak filed for bankruptcy in 2012, but film survives among enthusiasts. Today, photography is instant and shareable, yet still rooted in the same principle: capturing light to preserve a moment. From chemical darkrooms to cloud storage, the evolution of cameras reshaped how we document our lives. What once required patience and precision now happens in seconds, carried in our pockets. And as technology continues to evolve, one thing remains certain: our desire to freeze time and share it will always drive the next chapter of photography. And maybe that's the most remarkable part of this story. No matter how advanced our cameras become, they still serve the same simple purpose they always have: to hold on to the fleeting moments we're afraid to forget. Thank you for watching. If you have suggestions for our next video, feel free to share them in the comments below. We'll be sure to give you an acknowledgement for your contribution. Thank you for joining us on this journey through the history of simple things. Don't forget to like, subscribe, and stay tuned for more stories woven through the smallest details.